It's my birthday month, and that means making a sweet dessert just for myself, and this time it's a cheesecake. So let's go over everything from the start. At first I didn't know what to make for myself, so I began searching around for inspiration. I was jumping around several ideas and considered making some sort of anime themed birthday cake for myself. In the midst of my googling for inspiration, I came across this Undead and Kuromi collab image. Undead and Kuromi are standing on top of what appears to be a cake, so I decided to see if I could recreate that cake. I have, maybe not so successfully, attempted to make an Ube chiffon cake that was Undead themed 2 years ago, but I don't feel quite ready to try to remake that abomination. I wanted to see if I could make something different instead. This Undead and Kuromi cake looks fairly simple, so I thought, why not? We have the basic idea, and now I need to plan what I want to make. One of my favorite desserts is cheesecake, so why not make myself a birthday cheesecake? With my dessert picked, I had to decide how to get the purple and orange colors. I decided to turn back to my favorite purple flavor, ube, and since the top seems to be an orange glaze, I made just that, an orange flavored glaze. I have attempted to make cheesecakes before, but this would be the first time I try to make a cheesecake correctly. I've never made a perfect cheesecake though. Mine have always collapsed on themselves for some reason or another, but this time I believe I found several ways to fix this issue. This was also my first time adjusting a recipe and measuring my own quantities of the special ingredients I wanted, so feel free to also follow this recipe if it interests you. I will be following a typical New York style cheesecake recipe, but I took away sour cream from the ingredients as I wanted to make a sweeter cheesecake rather than a tangy one. I also added ube jam and ube extract to get the color and ube taste I wanted. Alright, let's get started. To start, I sprayed my springform pan with cooking spray and wrapped the pan in aluminum foil. The aluminum foil is to help with the baking process, as we will be placing our cheesecake in the bain-marie. More on that later. First, we make our crust. Personally, I like my cheesecakes to have only bottom crust, so I tried to adjust the recipe I found to make enough crust just for the bottom of the cheesecake. To make the crust, melt your butter. Then add graham cracker crumbs, sugar, and salt. Mix this all until well combined. Press your crust to the bottom of your pan with whatever you find useful. I used a small bowl. As I was pressing my crust to the bottom of the pan, I realized I added too much butter as the crust was quite liquidy. I ignored it for now, and I put my crust in the oven to bake it prior to adding my filling. And we will check on that later. Alright, cheesecake filling time. Now, let's go to our stand mixer and cream together our cream cheese and sugar until light and fluffy. Note, your cream cheese must be room temperature. If it is not room temperature, it will not cream well and will have lumps, which is not good for the baking part of your cheesecake. This can cause your cheesecake to collapse on itself when it's baking, so leave that cream cheese sitting for hours if needed to get it to room temp prior to using it. Next, I added my flavorings to the cream cheese mixture. I added ube jam, ube extract, and some vanilla extract for taste. Mix these guys with your cream cheese mixture until well combined. Scrape the sides of your bowl as needed while mixing. Afterwards, beat in your eggs one at a time at a low speed. Make sure not to overbeat your eggs and that the eggs are room temperature prior to beating. This can cause cheesecake issues in the future, so we want to be careful with these guys. My batter is done, so I needed to add it to my pan. This was the first time I was looking at my crust since baking it in the oven, and it was still rather gooey. But screw it, I decided to still pour my batter on top and hope the baking process would cook my crust. Now let us prepare our cheesecakes for its baking process. I placed my cheesecake in a bigger pan. This bigger pan was then filled with hot water that the cheesecake was going to sit in while it bakes. This is a recommended method to get a good bake all around your cheesecake. Without using this method, at times cheesecake can be baked on only the outside and not the inside. So this bain-marie method is just supposed to help cook the cheesecake all around. Alright, and now we bake our cheesecake for around 65 minutes at 325 degrees. Now for some helpful tips that worked for me. Once my cheesecake was done baking, I let the cheesecake sit in the now off oven for about an hour with the oven door slightly ajar. Cheesecakes can collapse if they experience drastic temperature changes, so I found this a helpful step in getting my cheesecake to cool at a slower rate. After an hour in the oven, I then let my cheesecake sit on the wire rack for about an hour and a half to get to room temperature before placing it in the refrigerator to cool completely. So hopefully that helps if you plan to bake a cheesecake. Anyway, our cheesecake is cooling in the fridge overnight, so let's make our orange glaze. And this orange glaze is fairly simple. I used a cup of confectioner sugar, about a 1/4 teaspoon of orange zest, orange food dye, and around 4 tablespoons of orange juice. I whisked these ingredients together to make my glaze. I got it to be a good orange color and a good consistency, so I poured it over my cheesecake. But I may have poured too much glaze as the majority of the glaze pulled to the bottom rather than staying on top, but no matter, it was tasting time. This cheesecake was probably one of my favorite items I've baked this year. It was nice, sweet, and creamy, just like how I prefer my cheesecakes. People sometimes describe ube flavor to be a nuttier vanilla flavor, so I think the added vanilla extract helped my cheesecake have a stronger vanilla profile. I'm also glad I decided to use ube jam with ube extract, as I feel this helped my cheesecake remain creamy. If you thought orange and ube wouldn't work, it surprisingly does. The orange flavor is mainly on top, so you only get a hint of that orange, and it doesn't overshadow the ube flavor. Anyway, I recommend making this cheesecake. 10 out of 10. I hope this video helps if you thought about making a cheesecake at all. Cheesecakes are a little tricky and finicky, but boy are they delicious and satisfying when you make them right. If you have any questions about cheesecake baking or about this recipe specifically, ask away in the comments. If you want a different flavor cheesecake, you most definitely can replace ube with any flavorings of your choice as well. Anyway, thank you for joining my baking adventures once more. If you feel inclined to, feel free to like and subscribe or follow any of my other social media channels. I like making things and I always make something, so I hope to see you next time when I make that something. Alrighty, that is all for me. Happy birthday month to my fellow birthday people. Bye bye!